I'm so excited today to welcome our first ever episode on podcast Warrior 2 Yoga for Wellness. So I can't express how excited we are right now. And the guest for our podcast today is Svetlana. I hope that I am pronouncing your name correctly. So this podcast is brought to you by the Warrior 2, a brand dedicated to yoga and wellness product. You can find a range of our yoga bags on Amazon US as well as Canada and Australia, also on our website at thewarrior2.com. So we make your yoga journey more enjoyable with high quality, durable yoga bags with intuitive designs that focus on user experience. Our products are not merely accessories, but they are statements of wellness. Okay, so today we will be going through the most asked questions in the yoga beginners community, such as what are exactly benefits of yoga and what yoga style that a beginner should start with, and so on. I'm very happy to have Svetlana today on our interview, and she is a very experienced yoga teacher with more than 10 years studying philosophy of yoga, and she's now not only teaching yoga but also teaching breathing exercise as well. Can you share with the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, guys. It's a big pleasure to meet all of you today on the podcast. My name is Svetlana. I'm currently staying in India, and thank you, Jenny, for introducing the previous period of experience of mine. That is actually coming from more than 10 years ago. For a moment, I'm practicing yoga and also I'm doing my study here in India Yoga Ashram. It's quite possible you will hear very authentic sound and surroundings behind our speech, which bring more authentic style to the record. My name is Svetlana, which is from Slavic language, originally translated as a light. On Sanskrit, it also has a meaning, but pronounced a little bit different way. It sounds like Reta. And it's also the white light here. I didn't plan that, just my parents gave me the names. So this is just how it's going, and actually deeply connected to my name a bit later than I just recognized how it actually deeply connected. Yeah, here I do study of philosophy. For the background, I also do have some education behind the yoga therapy because my style of teaching is mostly calming, very safe, very attentive style. The people who has diseases, struggles with their bodies or mental health, mental condition. So first, for my teaching, I introduce the practitioners to the questionnaire where they feel with which kind of blood pressure do they live, usually which problems in life they suffering right now, or if there are any diseases in their bodies which they want to fix, or is any goals they want to achieve and improve in their bodies also.
Okay, sounds really interesting. And before we go through all of the questions, a little bit curious on my end about why did you choose yoga? I know that you teach here breathing as well. So breathing, of course, is like a part of yoga, because if you don't know how to breathe properly, correctly, it's not really a proper yoga, right? But how did you come to yoga and why you chose yoga?
Yeah, Jenny, you're absolutely right. There is a very important word to yoga science. It means prana, which is translated literally like a life force, like a life source, which is bring the life to our body, to our mind as well. And this is very connected to the whole our life pattern. And it starts deeply when we go into the yogic science, not only as an exercises, but also in a state of mind, in a state of our habits and behavior of breathing, of all those patterns of having food and which kind of food also, the proper sleep and how many of it. So for me, about introduction to yoga, I also didn't choose it by myself, but I was introduced by my mom about the age of 7 to 10 years of
your family. Sorry?
Yeah, my mother. She didn't do yoga properly and regularly because it also was not really common in those 90s years as a sport, as a practice, as a philosophy as well. But it's just naturally came to her when she was suffering a lot with the stress with the condition of her body as well, because she had some problems with it, and she started to slowly get into yoga. How we started to come to those schools which were named the School of Health. So we got there a bit of practices of hatha, of vinyasa and some of those which called Kundalini yoga. And she didn't really had much time to practice, but from watching her from the side and also participate to join her on these courses, I was introduced to the techniques, which after helped me a lot when I already grew up and become a kind of adult. It helped me a lot to find a way to connect deeply with inner self and find kind of answers on several questions, which is still upcoming through the aging to each human being, I believe. This is a very great source to have in our life.
Yeah, it's amazing that how you came to yoga and saw the benefits of yoga from very early on, watching your mother practicing yoga. And yeah, so the topic about yoga is very deep. Like there are so many styles of yoga, but we will step by step go through all of those topics, hopefully in our podcast. And today, of course, there is always the first step, and today is the first step of our podcast, and we will explore a number of topics as well as questions that beginners in yoga community most ask about. So can you quickly share with us what are the key benefits of yoga? I know that there are so many benefits. I also doing yoga myself, so I know the benefit of it, but yeah, we really want to hear from you as a professional to understand better about the benefits of yoga.
The benefits of yoga, it's actually a lot of them. It connected deeply to each part, each stage of your life. Since the childhood, since earlier you start to practice, you can observe the growing in the practice till the end of our lives, I believe. Because since you start to practice, you get first your mind calm. You calm also the breathing pattern, because there is nothing about body. The yoga mostly, the yogic science mostly was created not only for the body work, but the most reason of it is to get a deeper knowledge of who we are, of to what we connect to and what is within us. So we can control our mind or just be in a very nice relationships with it, because our mind could be the biggest and best friend for us, and also
the enemy.
it could be a great enemy. So this is our daily work, to go and deal with it, to work on our mind first, then to bring to the stability, the strength to the body, because in yoga the body is more an instrument than as a source. So you use the body to know yourself better, to come to your mind, to change the life patterns, to change the habits, to fix some problems on the physical stage. And also, since you start to work with this, it naturally comes to your mind in a total work, changing everything since the beginning. You can start to feel it through the first practice if you attentively focusing on yourself, if you attentively with full intention of mind put even one direct or inner intention to one asana or one breath practice, and you focus completely and you sit there, and once you have adjust your tadasana, the most basic pose, you can say I'm done, because you can do it to the rest of your life, but since you do it properly, you never will have any problems with your spine or with the sideline of the body, with your mind as well, because you stand there in a proper position, you breathe in a right pattern, you think on the present moment, about the present moment, to feeling the sensation and observing the sensations of your body. So this is all about the deeper connection in all of those tools inside our home, our body.
This is really amazing, because many of us, most of us, who, if we think about yoga, we will think about physical body, physical activities. Even there are a lot of articles on the internet talking about how if yoga can help you lose weight. And so when people think about yoga, as I said, it's more of physical, like body actions. But hearing from you, we know that actually, firstly, it comes with the mind. So the mind is really important. And then we build a better connection between the mind and the body. And very interesting that you mentioned our body is like an instrument in yoga. Yeah, very insightful. And it's very good to know about that. And for beginners, what yoga style should a beginner start according to your opinion?
I would recommend to start with the very basics of yoga, which is Hatha yoga. Just get to know it in personal with the proper teacher. When come to the studios, they always have an ability to come to a beginner class, which will be with the proper adjustments to the beginner body and beginner state of mind, because it is usually different. We all came through different cultures, ages, behaviors. So we meet and end up in one class. And if it mentioned there is for beginners, you already know that the teacher understands your state of what you can do in exercise, and the teacher can properly adjust you to the chair, for example, or to using the wall also as example. You can also start to doing this by yourself with using simple YouTube videos, but it's better for you at least for one time come to the offline class, to the studio, or to take one with the offline yoga teacher in his studio or in any other proper area where you can study, and to get just the proper touches and adjustments of your body. It is also the way to practice of yoga therapy. It's very important if you do have any diseases, if you do have any special conditions of your mind and the body. And this is really important also when you're coming to the class, wherever you do it, online for the first time or offline. It's the most important thing you tell your teacher, your instructor, that you have this kind of problems and options to fix or to change or to be attentive to. And that is going to be life-changing for you, because since you feel the care which the teacher could to the practitioners, you will get this pattern to be that careful to your own body with your own practice, even if you do it in your room by YouTube.
That's very good. I think that's very good advice from you, that beginner at least should go to a offline yoga class, to interact with the teacher. Actually, teacher can directly adjust the posture or how we should approach the yoga poses. So you mentioned Hatha for beginner. Is there anything about Hatha yoga that is more beginner friendly than other style yoga?
The Hatha yoga is more basic one, because anywhere in India, wherever you go on schools, you mostly will meet the proper study about Hatha yoga, because they all are variations and styles of yoga. It naturally came through the roots of Hatha, because this is the very ancient and basic knowledge of yoga, because there are lots of them. There are Kundalini, Jivamukti, Ashtanga yoga, Bikram yoga, Bir yoga even, which is I not recommend to use for, but for fun.
Okay. So Hatha, that means Hatha, right? Is that how it's spelled?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Hatha.
Hatha. That's good to know. And it's something like a very good tip for beginner, because beginners always have a question, what yoga style should I start? Because when they come online, there is so much of information about yoga, right? And usually they tend to get lost. So it's very good to get the advice from a yoga professional like yourself. Okay, so if a beginner starts yoga for the first time, so how should he or she start? As you just mentioned, better to go to a offline class and interact with the teacher. And so what else should a beginner do to start yoga for the first time?
Also, it's great to follow the sensations of the body which you have on your first yoga class, because there is also important whenever you find that some of the styles later you will find on the internet or in the studios, and you will explore, hey, this one I like more, or this one doesn't really suit me, or I would try that and choose this. And there is a lot of options, but this is very nice to get a little bit deeper into the roots of the knowledge and yoga science, to explore a little bit more behind the postures, because since you get to know about the structure of how the body and mind connected to each other, it's very interesting to get to know some pranayamas, the breath work, or some techniques of meditation, and connected to your practice. Each lesson you take from the teacher, you always can adjust yourself from yoga to meditation, or the opposite way. From meditation, you can bring some knowledge about, hey, okay, now I'm aware of my body in this posture. I'm gonna stay here for 5 breaths. Inhale, exhale. So I do not go for like, and I'm gonna die because I do have an extra oxygen in my blood. So I control my mind first. I control also the breath flowing into my body, and I control the situation at the end. It's like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And as you said, so a beginner, besides going to a class and doing some different poses, but also think about how to learn to breathe properly, and also a little bit of knowledge about meditation as well. So it will give the beginner like a more holistic approach to yoga and proper start for yoga, right? Because when you start it something right, in the long run, you will get much more benefits of it instead of doing something not properly or not correctly from the beginning. Yeah. So besides physical activities, it's also about the mind, and be aware of how we breathe, the breathing techniques, and also get to know a little bit about meditation. That is the advice from Svetlana today. If you are a beginner and you don't know how to start your yoga for the first time. Okay, so I think that we have learned a little bit how you started your yoga journey, but can you share a little bit your own experience when you first practiced yoga? Because we just talked about how a beginner should start yoga for the first time, how beginner do yoga for the first time. So we also want to know for yourself, like your first ever experience. Can you describe it?
Yeah, sure. Since it started when I was a kid, for the first time, it was more fun than something about culture. We had a lot of fun being a kid, more playing in yoga, but not really doing yoga, because kids' bones, muscles, they are well prepared for any kind of practice naturally, because we do not have those stress we collect in our muscles and bodies. So that time it was pretty fun to practice. And then later, when it consciously became a practice, since the maybe 10 years after it passed, and I started to go to the studio nearby my home, and I started to explore more about us, and what I discovered, this is the most important thing for beginner, for the previous question as well. It's very important to mention about the warming up the body as a preparation before we do practice, because this is the most thing which is disturbing the beginners, even the regular practitioners who are already into yoga, who have the flexibility. But in the morning, this is the thing, when we wake up and going out of bed and we're going to the yoga mat in our home or in a studio, we will find out that naturally in the nighttime our body is having a lower temperature naturally, because we are resting. We don't have a lot of activity inside there. So this is the most important thing, to warm your body up, your bones and muscles up before you start to practice, to not bring any damage to yourself. So this is one note I got since I started to practice. Also, I've noticed the things became more clear since you come out of the yoga hall and you start to living your life by the proper breathing. Some of the patterns or some of the actions or thoughts becoming very different, and start to changing not only your present, but also it's healing the past, and it's being you away and safe from the problems and unliked situations in the future, like that.
That's really good to know. And especially when you mentioned about we should warm up our body before practicing yoga. And of course, many beginners, we don't have that kind of knowledge, or even nobody even like told us about that, right? We think that yoga, we could just go and just do it straight away. And so when you first started your memory, what was your biggest challenge?
Oh, yeah, that is true. Those are several challenges which is happening not even to beginners, but through the practice experience. And for beginning, the most challenge was to be aware and recognize this is the only right instrument for me, which was always a supportive tool to me for surviving in a difficult situations, in the life stages when I felt bad or lost or absolutely disappointed in something, or I tried to escape from the problems or from myself, from my feelings, emotions. I didn't know how to handle this. And most of the time, I tried so many things to bring it damage to myself by the action. But then lately, I recognized each time I ended up with yoga and it brought me to the right path, my own path. And was the most challenge to find it every time making the mistake. This is good to learn from mistakes a lot, but also that would be much nice to be more aware in our lifetime, to spend it on more conscious and pleasurable things like sharing love, sharing the experience with others, to help the others and yourself for the first place to grow and to shine your light. But sometimes life is bringing the abilities of you to get lost a little bit. So you always can find a way to get back to your path. And for me, it was yoga.
It's very inspirational to hear you sharing about your challenge and how struggles in life and sometimes problems, and find the way back to the present and be appreciative of the things surrounding us, appreciate the love that we have, and be happier after you do yoga. And yoga is a kind of a pathway for us to come back to the happiness state that we naturally have, because every kid, they are naturally being happy. So yoga, I think, as what you have shared, is like a pathway, the path for us to come back to our natural happy self. So it's very inspirational to hear that from you. And we have only roughly 8 minutes left for the interview, so I hope we can go through all of the questions. So how often should a person practice yoga?
This is a great question, because since the yoga practice is individual, the goals you want to achieve are also very individual. So you have to listen to your body. There is a very good song about listen to your heart always. So please listen to your heart, not only when it's calling for you, but even when it says to you, please stop, I don't want to do it anymore. So there is a very attentive thing to be aware of your body condition. Whenever you want to improve something, you want to achieve, you set the goals, you better first get a consultation with a teacher, or just tell it to the teacher on a first class, so you can provide the personalized practice, the private practice for each person, because it's gonna be different. We live in a different bodies, the different ages. Sometimes in the beginner classes, it's gonna be the person of the age of 70 and the 17. So there is the big way to find the right answers. If you want to improve, if you want to achieve, if you want to be stronger, be more flexible, and to get to know more into yogic science, you have to practice at least 5 hours in a week. If it's already enough for you just to keep the condition, just to being attentive, just to being happy, just to find your calm state of mind by doing meditation and relaxation after your classes, there is already enough to have 1 to 3 lessons per a week. This is always up to the individual goals of the person.
So you meant that if someone just wants to do yoga as a way for them to feel like more relaxed, calm in general, like in the middle of their very busy and stressful life, so he or she should practice around 1 to 3 sessions or 1 to 3 hours, as you said, per week. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm saying that sometimes the sessions is gonna be, for example, yeah, of course, it could be a 15 minutes even, but if you even can find those 10 minutes in your day, okay, it will be the 15 minutes. Please, next time, next day, observe yourself. You're feeling good or you're feeling better, you can provide yourself a half an hour, then a complete class about an hour or an hour and a half. And also then you can decide, okay, I'm able to keep going with my practice. I'm fine with 1 hour 3 times a week. And this is already fine if you are managing it in your busy life with all those work and stresses are coming. So this is already enough. And also if you do have any purpose to change your body, to build a core, to work on your posture and also work on your mind as well, it is supposed to be much more, but it's always up to you and the teacher's recommendations, and also the answers to the questionnaire, which usually we have about your total health condition.
Okay, it's very good to know that, and very good advice from you. I think that we about at the end of the interview now. Of course, we still have a lot of questions we want to ask, and hopefully we will have you again in the future in our podcast. I appreciate what you have shared with our audience, and I think that is very insightful, very informative about how beginners should start yoga, what styles of yoga that they should start with, and a lot of other interesting things that we got to know in this talk with you. Where people can find you? Do you teach yoga online or somewhere?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do teach online as well. I do also my private class. Most of the time I live in Bali, so I teach in Indonesia, also online and offline. And for a moment in India, have quite a taut schedule in yoga ashram, because we do have from the early morning to the late night the time practices and studying. So there is only one way, as for example we do have now for an interview. Sometimes, yeah, it's possible also do for a moment in here in India, but most of the time it's better to arrange if you do live in a different part of the world. The online classes are always available by request of my Instagram, email, or any other platform is available to find me as a Fiverr on Upwork.
Yeah. So what is the best address that people can find you on your Instagram or on Fiverr, or if they ever come to India, or they can go to your classes, no?
Yeah, the best way to find me is to directly text me a message on Instagram. I think this is the most common one for a moment.
What is the address for Instagram?
The address is MIR
MIR
SVITIT. So I will say the exact translation of it. It's the word of Mir, which is the first three letters of my last name, which means exactly peace. And Svetit, it's the kind of my name connected together with the surname. So it sounds and translating like the peace is lightning.
We will put the address of your Instagram in the transcription of this episode, so people can follow you and see a lot of your yoga videos or photos that will be very inspirational and inspiring for them. Okay, thank you so much, Svetlana. We are so happy to have you on the call, and we hope that we will have you back to the podcast very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. It was a pleasure.